I didn't make out real well. His truck stalled out and he says, yeah, I took a plug out and water came out. I says, well, that's just not.
Department could only get him so far, so I had to take him from, I was on the far end over, you know, by the, where the dams are, the beaver dams.
Yeah.
I had to drive all the way across to the other end, pick everybody up in the truck, drive all the way back, drop all them off, drive all the way back, pick up the rest of them, drive all the way back through it again. Back and forth.
It's normally 1.7 miles to get here. It was 8.2 for me.
Thing yesterday was 3/4 of a tank of diesel and I never left town.
Hey Tara,
Hi.
Hi, Tara.
so we're waiting for one more member that actually have a quorum. So you know, so.
Okay.
If I can go back on you or whatever, if you'd like. Straight, I'd let you know.
The building stayed cool with the new system.
I think relatively cool.
Good.
Certainly has been tested.
Oh, God, damn. Says art deck, we should all.
Do we want to hang out and one shows up?
Why don't we give it 5 more minutes? That'll give us 15 minutes and then we'll
Okay.
go home. I mean,
I mean, it would be preferable if we have a quorum. I mean, we are an advisory committee,
right,
so we're not the ones making the ultimate decisions.
but if people aren't here, we'll have to bring them up to speed because they weren't here.
Yep. So that was gonna be my point.
Yeah,
Is, you know, we could sit here and go through this stuff, but there's a lot of new stuff to go over. And tonight would really be, you know, what do we want to work on?
I think probably a lot of people were not sure if we would have it as a result of yesterday, and I called and left a message, but nobody got back, so. Sure that we were.
Or you called here?
I called the planning office to see if we were having for sure.
Yesterday was a little disruptive.
To the flow. Well, no, the flow was working pretty good. Well, if we want to do something, we'll just say, we'll call it to order with nothing transpire for votes. Or not.
I mean, we could try and, at least kind of pull through proposals.
Hey, Jeff.
I haven't heard from anybody else. So I want to. Yes, go through. This, I mean, we got Tyra on board to be able to go through some stuff and.
Probably should wait till we. People. Responsible.
You with us, Tara?
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:13.
Pull your mic down.
I'll call the meeting to order at 6:13 on the 16th of July, 2023.
17th.
17th. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, we'll start and when we have a better audience, we'll elect a chairman. I'll just carry on since I was and then we'll get some unsuspecting soul to be chairman.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda unless there's been changes.
There are no changes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, so we're
It's
not.
pretty tough.
Oh, we don't have to do any of that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't do that tonight because you can't vote. We
No.
don't have a quorum.
and I think I'll make sure I post for the minutes that this is a meeting that we do not have a quorum and no decision making will happen this evening whatsoever. This is just call it a work session. So we can just talk about this and then when the rest of the board gets together, we can make informed decisions.
There we go.
So, Mr. Chairman, in the spirit of that, I'd like to invite the public to come right to the table as well and
I would like that as well. No, unless you want to pay.
admission is free.
Yeah, and we have two guests joining us. If you both identify yourselves, please.
Kelly Sullivan.
Richard Schick.
Thank you. Welcome. Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Here's a list of items compiled over the last year for discussion and determine of whether or not they will be addressed this year. Number one, flexible zoning, open space subdivision. This is going to be probably a lot of work, and this is probably one of the good reasons Tara's here to help guide us through this.
Yes, so with that said, I hate to waste Tara's time.
Yeah.
So do we go over as a whole separate thing? Do we even want to start discussing that tonight?
Or just
do we
postpone
wanna
this.
Postpone it.
I think we probably better postpone it.
Yeah,
Or is there an option C where I do the 2-minute reminder of what we were talking about and make sure that at least the members there want to continue working on it?
Yeah, I was gonna say a 20,000-foot view would be great.
So I think that what you initially started talking about was two different things, an open space subdivision and a cabin colony. And as we worked on those, we kind of said, well, gosh, what if we combined those thoughts and called it flexible zoning? A typical open space subdivision, like say it was in your rural zone where you have the 2-acre minimum, somebody with 20 lots could do 10 2-acre lots, or they could, if we had this open space subdivision or flexible zoning, they could put those 10 homes on 5 acres in the corner and leave 15 acres conserved as wildlife habitat or scenic open space to protect a view or something like that. They might be on individual lots, they might not be, they might, but probably have shared utilities. Now we said, well, gosh, what if we said they could have 15 homes on that land if they weren't any bigger than some number, like 1,200 square feet, something like that, so that kind of gets you to the cabin colony concept. It's a pretty more and more common approach to call that cottage housing and have it be an important piece of workforce housing and starter homes for young people, a way for older people to downsize. The example that we had in hand that Jessica sent out, that's just one framework of how it might look. There's others, and there's other examples I can send out if you want to continue to work on that. This is just based on a model that I wrote years ago because I like things simple, so it's only a 2-page one, but there's longer, more detailed. You could, it's not uncommon to have design elements in there so that, it's not a shabby looking thing, but they look like typical nice subdivision with some uniformity in the architectural style, but not each one looking the same. So there's a lot of room in there to use it as a tool for workforce housing and also for natural resource protection. So that's where we left it.
Tara, what are your thoughts on possibly employing some energy conservation measures like solar panels, anything like that to entice, maybe change the density with those, if they employ those, savings like that? Would that be something that would be good? Because I'd just like to see us get in the ball of being a little bit more.
We'd have to look into that. There are certain things that are legitimate purposes that can be in the zoning, and we'd have to make sure that's one. I'm not a lawyer, so I need to ask about that. I did ask a lawyer about this other approach of incentives for smaller homes, because I know Ben Frost and Hip to Housing pretty well, and he felt that he could support this approach. He thought it may very well be the first in the state to have an incentive, a density bonus for smaller homes. And he didn't see any reason not to go forward with it. But as far as a density bonus for energy, alternative energy or energy conservation, we need to find out if that's something that you're enabled to do. So I think the question Jessica wants on the table tonight is keep this on the agenda for a future workshop and carve out some time for it, or I think last year there was a lot of support, but a feeling that it was getting late in the year and there was a lot of amendments on the list.
Yeah, I think last year, short-term rental just took over everything.
Yeah, that.
So we put pretty much everything aside and worked on that.
But I think we also all agreed that this was a high priority. And
Yes,
I think,
it is.
reading through the paperwork that I had, I guess I had missed the aspect of the workforce housing approach, and I guess I just didn't even think of that, but I know that that is something that we've really got to address here
Yeah,
very
we have
seriously.
we have to be careful about naming it that,
I know, and
because we got our eyes blackened from it the last time.
yeah, I know. There's
Yeah, well, that,
stigma that comes along with workforce housing, affordable housing.
Well, they had a thing that with the Agenda 21 which is put on by in New York City on the East River. What's it? The
UN, and I think.
thank you.
I think we just, and that's why we wanted to just, be simple, call it flexible zoning, but build a bonus in there for smaller homes.
Yeah.
No restrictions on who lives in them. You might very well decide that they can't be short-term rentals, however.
Right, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
So just so I'm understanding this right, so we're taking the minimum requirement of 2 acres per lot. It's gonna change to anything?
Well, only for this, if you use this development option. If you want to do a scattered lot subdivision, the 2 acres will remain in effect.
Right.
This would be, in the old days, they'd call it cluster development, but
Yeah.
they don't like that word either.
Right.
So
I
And
hate to use the Christian Conference Center as an example, but you're talking something along those lines where it'd be a cluster of homes using same utilities, that type of thing.
yeah, that's a little intensified to what we're thinking of here, but the
Yeah.
concept is
The
there.
concept is what I was trying to get. Okay.
Tara, would this, so I think we mentioned it last year that this would take place of the existing inclusionary zoning, which was that traditional workforce housing ordinance that was put in place, I think, like 2012.
It could.
Was it actually put in place?
I don't-
Because
I don't remember. I don't remember the group coming to the conclusion that one should replace the other, but we certainly talked about the fact that your inclusionary housing section is so complex and restrictive that nobody's using it.
Right,
How I
so-
remembered that is we did not want to do that because we felt we had enough inventory that fit the workforce housing guidelines at the time. But that being said, right now we do not, because the market has changed so dramatically since we
Oh,
last discussed this.
right.
I think there's probably no harm in just leaving that be. I think there's not a great image to removing the inclusionary housing section from the zoning.
Right, I didn't know if you had any comment on that.
I guess my comment would be to just leave it there. Know that nobody's really using it, but leave it alone. It's
And no one has used it,
not,
and I've worked for the town, I think come September, it's 7 years.
yeah, I'm just concerned of the image of.
Fire about it.
removing it.
Right. Because we didn't really
It's
need it because
technical, right,
we had it available to us without trying.
Yep.
You know,
It's also just really complex.
it is.
yeah, all on wages and whatever else.
So
Yeah.
what about if it comes down to, just trying to encourage builders to do something along these lines? It's one thing to be able to get the higher density, that's attractive, but who would be responsible for a tax break or something like that? Is that something that would come through the selectmen, or how was
No,
that?
why would there be a tax break?
I'm
we-
just trying to encourage as much as possible for people to actually build something like this.
Well, I think that's a different policy conversation than a zoning amendment.
No.
And we do have some suggested sort of layout, I guess, in the master plan.
I was gonna say, because we discussed
It's
it
on that future.
through the master plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the future development.
Well, that was good because it gave us flexibility
yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, totally.
So it sounds like there's interest in keeping this on the table.
Oh, absolutely.
I would
think
say
so.
yes.
I know we
Yes.
heavily discussed it for 2 years during the master plan committee as
Right.
well. So I would say yes.
So before I bail, then do you want to move the last agenda item up and talk about the next meeting and really block out, an hour or so on this
Well, you
topic?
want to take and work our calendar now versus later like we normally do? That way Tara can be up to speed and she
Yeah,
can
not-
give us feedback whether she can be around or not.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of availability on Mondays and Tuesdays next month. I have August 7th and 8th, 14th and 15th, and 22nd.
My goodness.
I know, huh? Jump on it.
All sorts of free time there, Tara.
All right, let's see here.
Yeah, I'm good for Mondays, certainly.
I'm not good on the 8th. I have to have a colonoscopy.
Then you're not good on the 7th either, right?
So the 7th,
7th would be fine.
all right, so let's see what looks like over here.
You have the master calendar.
I'm looking at like 3 calendars at the same time. One second.
Here it is, it just opened.
Okay. So the 7th looks good. August 7th.
Okay. Is that good with Tara or?
Yeah, that it is. So why don't I send out some examples to look at? Again, I think I did a while ago, but I'm sure we've all forgotten about those links. So let me do that again, let people read some examples and come to that meeting on the 7th with thoughts on what elements they like and don't like, and you know what we can draw from to make a good fit for Alton.
Okay.
Good.
We want to do one more meeting after that. That way people can plan a little bit because last year we tried to get 2 meetings ahead. Do we,
I haven't filled out my September yet, but I might be able to respond if you have a couple dates you wanna,
do we want to do another meeting in August?
14th, 15th, 22nd, doesn't give me a lot of, 22nd will give me time to draft something for you.
Stuff.
28th, Monday, the 28th.
I'm hoping to be gone that week.
Okay. So how about like September? Oh, that's Labor Day. Never mind.
August 22nd. Does that not work for you?
That can work. That's a week after our planning board meeting.
Yep, I can do Tuesday, the 22nd.
So that would give me a chance to get, do some follow-up to what you guys, you can give me direction on the 7th. And I can do a first draft.
So the 22nd won't work. We won't have our selectmen's rep.
It's the selectmen.
Oh,
Oh, lucky you. Okay.
24th,
What's that?
24.
Thursday, the 24th.
I won't be able to make the 24th, but don't rest on me.
That's it for me for August.
That's my ex-wife's birthday too.
I'm impressed that you remember that.
Yeah, I'll call her and wish her happy birthday.
11th or 12th of September, we getting done there?
So do we not do the 24th? Are we moving to September?
Well, if we don't mind you not being here,
Me and Mr. Shea won't be here on the 20, so which date are you talking about right now?
The 22nd?
the 22nd,
The 22nd, we'll have a selectman meeting in here, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we won't be able to meet up here.
we get out of
and
the
we
Ike
won't have a
building,
screen,
right?
and we won't have all this fancy equipment. That we
What
need.
about, do you want to meet at 4 o'clock on the 22nd? Can people do that?
Ooh.
Is that moving of what is selectman night? To me
Huh?
forever, I was like, what's not? a
Yeah, I
Monday?
don't know if the other 2 members would be able to make it that night. Or 3, rather.
Was the
That's
24th out? Thursday, the 24th?
You're not here the
Be here.
24th,
No.
Scott?
No,
So then I'm on to September 11th and 12th.
You're busy on the 21st, Tara, did you say?
Yes.
It's the 11th it is.
What was the,
And we have until November's planning board meeting, well, shortly before that, to work on amendments.
It'll be
So we
November
have
before we know
September,
it.
October, and the beginning of November.
Not much time.
Depending upon what we work on this year, I suppose, yeah.
Well, there is the possibility that I could do you a draft and you discuss it without me there.
Yeah, save questions for her.
If you wanted to go with the 21st, for example.
Let's do that. And then,
Think
we'll-
we might
then
have
we'll,
to, just so you can get that meeting in, because.
right.
I mean, at
Yeah,
the rate you're
'cause we need
going, it's
to-
gonna be November.
I know.
yeah,
It
that
goes fast.
me
Yeah.
too.
So, quick. All right,
And you'll have all these other amendments to talk about as well,
right.
right? That you don't need me there for. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and get your second meeting in there.
Yep.
And we'll figure it out.
21st. And we'll be Tara-less.
If we could schedule September too, that's probably a good.
Sure.
Okay.
21.
All right, and then you're gone the week, the 28th, is that when you're gone, Tara?
Yes, that
Yeah,
weekend, the
August.
next.
How are you
that weekend, the
September,
next one.
how are you September 11th, Tara?
Good.
That sound good for everybody? That was an easy one.
So if you spin your wheels without me on the 21st, just work on all your other amendments that day and we'll talk in September.
I'm
That
sure
keeps-
there's plenty
That
to talk
keeps you
about.
moving forward.
Okay, so we got August 7th, August 21st. Tara won't be here, but she'll send us information, and then September 11th.
Correct.
Okay. That sounds fine.
And I don't know if you'd like to, where you get done downstairs at 5:30, would you like to move this to 5:30 maybe, or did you like to have the half-hour break in between?
The half an hour break's actually helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it so you get home earlier.
That's her dinner.
And she woofs it down there. Then we'll bring Rolex for you.
So I'll hop off and wish you a good meeting and I'll send you some reading for the next meeting.
Thank you,
Great.
Tara.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Tara. I appreciate it.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Night.
Okay. So we've talked about flexible. We'll move past that one now. So we'll wait till we have the information from Tara so we can digest that. Section 326. Commonly used waterfront parcels and lots. Continuing care retirement. Pardon me, I'll stop on that. Waterfront parcels and lots. What is your thoughts there, Jess?
Yeah, so this number 2 is just telling you guys that those two sections don't refer to the stormwater management ordinance. Those must have gotten written prior to that,
Okay,
so they don't reference that. What that means as far as, adding language, I'm not too sure yet. I just kind of threw some stuff on here for right
Okay.
now.
Yep.
I'd have to look at that. If it's just sort of
is this something you might have to run by the attorney to see what they're thinking or,
all of these eventually
yeah,
will go by the attorney. I'll look and see what, I can review this and look and see what that entails.
For the most
Okay.
part, it should just be a one-liner, I would think.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, just,
Yeah,
and the next two are probably the similar,
Um,
continuing care, community.
yeah, those
Yeah,
two
retirement.
section, the 326 and 331 are missing that information.
so they'll
Okay.
just have to refer to 359.
Yep, all right, so I'll
Okay.
review that and, I'll give you guys something next meeting.
Okay. Add a new definition for junkyard.
Yep. We don't have one.
We used to, because
But
Bob
it
Green had a junkyard in town.
must
And
have gotten away with it at some point.
it was probably non-conforming. I'm willing to
So,
guess it was before zoning. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
yeah, so these are actually recommended by the attorney to clarify our zoning ordinance.
Yep.
So that it just refers you right to the RSA.
Okay, so but if we don't have it listed, then it doesn't happen? Or do they have to ask for a special exception?
So,
Because I think,
right, so if it's not in place, then you need a variance. And by this not being in place, ordinarily you'd look to, say, the dictionary for, you know, what a use means. And the dictionary doesn't include, it only sort of references like a commercial kind of junkyard type use. It doesn't reference anything to do with having a junkyard at your house. So this RSA does. So to reflect that the town wants to look at the RSA's sort of definition of junkyard and not the dictionary's definition of junkyard,
okay,
should put something in place.
okay. So with automotive and truck junk, and these next three
Yeah,
after
so
that, they're all the
next
same flavor?
three- Yeah, the next three are actually existing definitions that we already have.
We do have.
It's just to clarify and sort of.
So all we're looking to do is add junkyard.
We're adding junkyard and then we're just amending the current existing definitions for the other three.
To point them to that RSA.
Yep,
Okay. That makes sense.
just kind of cleaning that up.
Page 2.
Yep.
Okay, I'm number 5. I'm a little,
Yep.
I don't know what you're thinking.
So number 4, actually, the
Whoops, I
heading
missed 4.
got stuck.
Sorry.
The heading got stuck on page 1.
Okay, yep.
So that's Lakeshore Residential Zone. So 4 and 5 are the same thing. So when you go to the zones in the zoning ordinance, there's no sort of nice description as to what the zone consists of.
Well, you said they're the same zone?
So no, Lakeshore Residential.
Is its own zone?
And
then we have
residential.
Residential, they're two different
So there are
zones.
2, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they
Okay.
have both. It's been a long day.
Well, we'll make it as short as possible for
Very
you.
tired today.
Both need a description.
4 and 5 both need a description, yes.
So there are descriptions of all the other zones, but
There-
not of these two.
Thank you. Yes.
We got you, girl.
Thanks, Drew.
I'm going to interpret for Jessica.
There you go.
Add that to your resume.
Okay, number 6. Special exception for the Lakeshore Residential Zone. Review and potentially amend acreage requirement of 10 acres indicated in A below that are totally dense. Total density shall not exceed 1 dwelling per unit per acre. Now, why are we saying that? Because the Lakeshore Residential Zone requires 30,000 square feet.
Right, but when it comes to special exceptions. And in this little table of use chart, I put down the uses that require the special exception. So in that case, if you're in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, you need a minimum of 10 acres to do these things, these uses.
Wow.
Right.
There aren't many 10-acre lots in the Lake
Right,
Streets and
Yeah,
residential
and-
zone.
And this was a discussion that we had through the master plan and kind of, you know, helping to foster places for people to like vacation to and things like that, because that's what most of these uses are. You know, bed and breakfast or camp, seasonal cabins.
Yeah.
Um,
And now
It's just-
Airbnbs.
I mean, something you guys can agree or not agree with or whatever. It just is something that we talked about and figured I'd put it on the list.
So when you say to review and potentially amend, you're basically saying change to change this minimum acreage requirement,
right, to some other, maybe lesser than.
something less.
But yet but yet at the same time, looking to keep protecting the lake.
Right.
It's kind of one of
Right.
those.
Yeah, so it doesn't
So
look
like
like
say you had a
coffee.
nice home on the lake, you
Yeah.
can have 10
It's
acres,
a
but you
fine
can open a
line.
nice B&B. You can have people
Mm.
come into the town, stay there, spend their money here, and there's somewhere for them to stay, but it's not,
Well, I think. as
trying
far
and
as-
trying to get business in the area too, because obviously we're short on places like that,
Yeah.
for
I think
business,
that's
so.
gonna change shortly with that short-term rental. I think there'll be a lot more places for them to stay.
All right, well, that certainly is, I mean, I think that's something the whole,
Yeah, that needs to hold a place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
All right, and then number 7 again got stuck on this page, but it's on the other page. So basically what this means is that when you go to the zoning ordinance, it tells you to basically go to the state. It doesn't have a nice description, it doesn't really have an ordinance. It just is telling you, go see the state's requirements. So with that, the town, through its regulatory process through the code official, can't go out on site and enforce the stormwater management ordinance because we're basically saying, go to the state. So it would be the state that would enforce any
Which-
of these.
which they should.
provisions.
I think.
But then it's out of the town's purview. And then it's up to the state to go out and review things.
and Lord knows that never happens. So,
So just something that was, again, noted throughout our master plan conversations and view of the zoning ordinance.
so it doesn't necessarily that we have to rewrite the entire RSA within our zoning laws. We just perhaps need to rephrase things to say,
Refer to.
Some of the
yeah, yes, yeah,
language.
you are required to abide by this and it is enforceable by the town of Alton.
That way, if their regs change, this changes with it.
Right.
Right, so I would suggest going back to page 1 under this whole junkyard section to where we're referring to the RSA, but it's still under the town's purview.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to update that in some fashion with some help from town council to sort of fix that.
Yeah.
And I did provide a different way that the town can enforce that, but it's a little trickier.
You may have to fight the state for the fines.
Yeah. It would just be easier if things were the same.
Okay, any more questions on 7?
No,
Number 8, condominiums. Discuss amending the ordinance, which is specific only to conversion of existing sections or new construction for multifamily dwellings to allow newly constructed self-storage facilities to become condos. And the fact this ordinance did not get amended when we changed the use from dwelling multifamily to multifamily structure and allowed 6 units instead of 5. We did that? 6?
Yeah, a couple years back.
Okay.
So this is actually like a twofold thing. So one, it's just updating it to state 6 instead of 5 units. So that was just, I guess,
that's
maybe.
kind of the easy one, I think.
Yeah, so let's start that one. And then, so the other proposal is so when it comes to condominiums, you can condominiumize your property by right, but then the town goes even further and puts more restrictions on things.
Right.
So the restriction,
because we can't strip on, uh, we can't restrict the type of ownership, so that's why the town takes over.
correct. So, but within this ordinance, it only allows for,
For dwellings.
so it's, right, it doesn't talk about, commercial businesses. It's very streamlined.
Well, the state gets involved in that too, because I know in my project over there, I cannot condominiumize those by state with the septic designs, not for condominium use. So, and I don't know why they say that, because if it's a dress shop, it's a dress shop, it's a dress shop. You know?
So, so there've been a couple of times actually that there've been some proposals to condominiumize a storage facility.
Yeah.
So to condo out the units so that people actually can purchase
Yeah.
the unit.
Like they did up where the Christmas tree inn used to be in Guilford before
Yep.
you get to Elacoya.
And
That's,
those were some of the other like higher end type storage facilities like the Toy Box. And they do that.
Yep.
They allow for condominiumizing.
and they
of
usually
the
have a
units.
bathroom in them and things of that nature.
Yeah, maybe a little kitchenette sort of thing. Yeah,
Now it's an apartment.
with, yeah, yeah. With the tap.
So this proposal would also allow for some commercial structures.
So,
Become
and this would be
condominium
available
units.
in all zones as you're writing here.
And so that way, that wouldn't change. The zoning would stay the same. As to where. Like with a current commercial. Where current commercial businesses are allowed. We'd just also be able to, allow that condominiumizing.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I think it's a good idea, because I know that those high-end storage facilities are growing in popularity, especially
big
with
time.
the
Selling out very fast, yeah,
Yep.
as soon as they come up.
Yep.
Well, if
and,
people have a motorhome, they don't use it, they want to put it in there, keep it pretty.
yeah, or if you've got
Boat,
a classic old car, that you want to, work on and hang out on a Sunday, and
Yep.
or watch the football game while you're working on your car. But it gets complex, because each one of those condos, if you will, need to have their own bathroom, and they need to be self-sufficient, individual temperature controls, climate control. So I'm not sure simply lumping this in with a conversion from a standard storage facility now you can sell off a storage unit. I'm
No,
not sure.
it's for new construction.
So this would
This one-
only apply to
So-
new
so
construction.
This one, because there's already an existing conversion.
That does say new.
Yeah, after 2020.
Yes, so I just put in the conversion because it already addressed. It already addressed conversions, so I just put in new construction.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it's just condominium conversions of existing structures. As regulated under RSA 356B-5. So conversions doesn't limit it to residential or commercial. It's just new construction in our ordinance that limits it
Okay,
to residential. That's what the issue was.
Residential use.
Yeah, it only talks about multifamilies, actually.
Hmm.
For new construction.
That's the way it's written right now, is they can do this in a residential zone.
For multifamilies, wherever
could get a-
multifamily dwellings are allowed, they can condominiumize currently.
Yeah,
And that would be,
because the residential zone you can do pretty much.
and if I'm not mistaken, multifamily means 3 units or more.
Yep,
A duplex is a residential use, no matter where you want to put it.
and then, right, so currently it doesn't allow for anything to do with commercial, it's just multifamily.
Just so people know also with the, when you go to a commercial 3 or more, you do not have access to the septic system reduction in size like you would in a residential type use.
So you want to see this become more of a commercial item or more of a
I think it opens up more opportunities for people.
under commercial?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's, how many people want more than a duplex in their yard, you know, I mean. One's enough, right? Okay, so second, is there anything else on here? And here on the page here, we went down.
That's just the rest of the
Yep.
ordinance that exists currently.
And then number 9 ties kind of in with it.
Right. So number 9 is very specific. Self-storage facilities are only allowed to be leased or rented currently.
Yeah.
So just adding in, or sold.
And should we review the zones those are available in? Because I think they're a special exception in the rural zone, right?
Self-storage facilities?
Yeah. They're not allowed in the RC zone, I don't believe.
Residential, rural and rural, what it says, right?
Self-storage facility, yeah, residential, rural, and rural, they're allowed in. And then they're not allowed anywhere else, so it's variant.
Okay. I had it backwards then. And I suppose that's probably pretty good because if it was a RC zone, I mean, we could have it self-storage right in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Yeah,
would be a little less than desirable in my
Just
eyes.
a little bit.
10.
let's see, okay, so this is, all right, this is kind of more of a question to you guys. So last year, the state passed a new law for prohibiting municipalities to regulate churches. And that stayed in as law, so there was a proposal to amend that, but it didn't pass. So it's still sitting in there as law, so our ordinance sort of conflicts now what state law is, and
We should probably also, if we do something with that, differentiate something that looks like a church, but isn't a church anymore. Like across the street, whatever that goes to.
Yep. right,
You know,
so.
that's not,
so
a
there
well,
are
it's not
some-
They
a
get-
church anymore, unless
This-
someone,
This RSA got into pretty good detail defining what a church is or a place of worship and that it has to be used for certain things, certain regular, periods of time.
Yep.
So it did do a fairly good job of that. So it's like your accessory buildings and things like that, those don't qualify.
right?
Right,
Well, back years and years ago, probably prior 1970, the campground, the Advent Christian Conference Center, I should say, tried to call themselves the church. And the town took them to court for tax purposes.
Yeah.
And it was decided is the administration building, the church, Sunday schools, things of this nature, something that was definitely tied to the church, but all the houses that went with them, no.
Give them a loophole.
Yeah, well, yeah,
right, so the question is, do we amend the current use of a church, or do we leave it the way it is in anticipation of it maybe hopefully changing back at some point? Again, I think it's a tough. I
Well-
mean, it's gonna go whatever the state regs say anyways, even if we say you can't.
Yeah, I know. What is our definition of church?
And they're allowed in any zone, I believe, too, right now,
They're what?
allowed in any zone, I think.
Yes, I did look at that, yeah, the churches
Yeah,
are.
there's no restriction.
Period.
Yeah. You can't hold them to any ADA accessibility rules. It's
Well, that's
Pretty much.
crazy.
very counterintuitive.
So
That's
a
very crazy.
church is a building or structure or a group of buildings or structures that by design and construction is primarily intended for conducting organized religious services and associated accessory uses.
Okay, so I think we need to go to the RSA because they define it in the RSA. And I think we need to get that definition, and maybe we should be, if we're going to adopt this, which we kind of have to, I think we need to change our definition to match the state's definition, because it is more restrictive than that wording.
I also,
State's definition require them to be ADA compliant and that
No,
it still does not.
no, it exempts them from all the rules.
we also ought
Fire
to,
alarms.
we ought to look at changing the word church to place of worship or something along those lines, because what if somebody wants a synagogue? It's not a church.
Yeah, that's true.
Technically, yeah, that's right.
And we, and
Ooh,
and
good
more and
point.
more, and more and more religious outlets are using different locations for, the Beaver uses the high school, for instance. you
That
know,
blows me
like-
away that that's allowable, but
I think because it's Sunday and there's no school and they probably rent,
right.
pay for that, so they probably just,
But I think we ought to move away from the word church.
That's an excellent point.
I kind of agree.
All right, so I'll work up something for the next meeting on this then with a couple
You have an idea of how you want to word it as far as what we should change it to? Would you?
place of worship.
Place of worship, I
I think
think.
place of worship.
That pretty
covers it
well
all.
covers it, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty well used phrase. that I'm
Yep,
yep.
talking about. I'm
I
going to
agree.
church or whatever. Okay, so I'll keep that on the list then. So
now that can't come back if some Sunday worshiper decides they want to host church in their living room, right?
Well,
Primary,
listen,
yeah, it's like. it's
that's
primary.
been going on for years in West Dalton.
Definition is
There's a
good.
Baha'i community in West Dalton, and
Okay.
they go to somebody's house and they have church. So,
Okay. Well, that's right. I mean, it's very
yeah,
feasible. You can see that, cause yeah.
So number 11. I think last year this may have gotten axed off the list somehow or something when we were talking about short-term rental. So we didn't leave any uses that could
Yeah,
rent out.
if
from
I
one
recall
or
right,
two.
we didn't want to include this in short-term rental because it was a business, you
Yeah.
know, which I know short-term rental is a business, but
But it's a different type of business.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't leave any place to rent out one or two overnight accommodations, so we can amend that to say one instead of three,
That makes sense.
and then that will fix that
Yeah.
gap.
Trying to remember what our thinking
Do you
was on
wanna
this
say-
last year.
Because just because you don't want somebody with a Verbo or an Airbnb saying, I'm just saying.
But wasn't there also with the bed and breakfast, there was a limit as well to the duration of their stay? Because otherwise you could call yourself a bed and breakfast, rent out one room on a monthly basis. Or for a year lease.
That was-
Now it's in,
That was like a lodging house or something.
Right.
Yeah, like that's not what
Rent, yeah. I
my
think
definition of a bed and breakfast
Yeah.
is, but
We did. We clarified all of
Yeah.
those definitions last year, except for this one thing.
All right, I mean, yeah, well, we'd certainly, I mean, discuss it with the whole.
Yep.
Group.
So. Number 12. There are some
My
updates.
goodness.
Yeah, I know.
You tore into this a couple of years ago.
I did, and then I had someone come into the office the other day, that wanted to open up a daycare, and she's like, it's not listed here anywhere under any of these definitions. I forget what group, what age bracket she was looking for. And I was like, oh, well, these
If
come
it's who
from
I'm
the-
thinking of,
these come from the state, and she's like, no, they don't. So what I wanted to do is be able to, and I have Robin in the office helping me with that. To go in and kind of make sure that these are updated.
And this is after the new one that just opened on Alt Mountain? This came up?
Yeah, but she fits
Wow.
into one of these criteria already. So just a quick, review with some assistance with Robin to make sure that these are all updated. I think these actually go by the state's licensing requirements and not so much
But if
definitions
three or more,
in
you
the
have to be licensed,
RSA.
something like that, isn't it?
I think that's where these come from.
What was that?
3 or more children, you have to be licensed, I believe,
Sure.
somewhere around
depends,
there. It's
yeah.
not, it's not a lot.
So that's what that is. So just kind of ongoing.
It's an
process on
ongoing,
that.
you did a lot of typing on that one.
Okay, so here's another. This has come in my office many times. Non-conforming lots.
We got a bunch of them in town.
There are,
Quite a few.
whether the non-conformance is, lot size, frontage, shoreline
host of
frontage,
ideas.
whatever, building. Criteria. So the reason why this is on here is because, there have been more than one surveying, company that's come in and has said, hey, wait a minute, we don't need a variance for lot line adjustment if we're making the lot less non-conforming. So right now, and it's been this way since I've been working here, we make people go to the ZBA to get a variance, say if their lot size is still too small after the adjustment, they're made to go to the ZBA to get a variance for lot size.
So you want
um,
to skip that step? Is that what that?
So,
Well-
I think that's right.
Yeah.
so I've had very in-depth conversations on this.
Well, I can give you a little history. I'll use my subdivision as a thing. I had adjacent to my subdivision was 100 by 100 acre lot. Well, non-conforming. And I had another lot which was way more than the 2 acres that it needed. And so what we did is we took that 10,000 square foot lot and made it to 1.86 acres, and the planning board approved it just like that. So now that is less non-conforming. It did not meet the
Yep.
the criteria. So
Right.
what do we do?
So.
That kind of set precedent.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the proper approach should have been that went to the ZBA because you are still creating a non-conforming lot. Yes, it's
Right.
less
But
non-conforming.
we've done that. If we really went back through our records, we have done that time and time and time again, not just once
Right.
that I related to.
So I don't know when that took place. And the same information came from John when he was here and when he started. That information came from prior town council. That if the outcome of what you want to do creates a new deed, then you're creating a new lot of record. Our new town council agrees with that analogy. So to, I guess, make things a little easier for residents to not have to then go in front of the ZBA to get granted approval to create a non-conforming lot still. Don't know. Trying to do away with that step. As long as they're coming in and they're making the lot less non-conforming.
So you're
Proposal
supporting the
is
less
to-
non-conforming or not?
So the proposal is to get away with not having the variance if they're making that lot less non-conforming.
That makes
So they're
sense to
adding-
me. I
They're
mean,
making it better.
Yep.
Why do we make them come in for a variance? If they're making it less, obviously you need a
that
variance.
goes without saying.
That's a no-brainer. But if you're making it less non-conforming,
But it's still non-conforming.
but it's still gonna be non-conforming. You can't change it. You can't make it any better. You can't grow land.
So they should still have to.
So the
The idea-
request is to do away with that need for a variance. If they're making
Plus
it
the
better.
idea of non-conforming is that they all go away someday, but that's not really realistic.
happen,
Um,
Brr.
So
That's where I sit and I love,
I am freezing.
me and Richard Shea sit there and I love that spot. I love that spot.
the only thing that I'm hesitant of is that there was an application that came in for a lot line adjustment. Just for this planning board meeting, and they had multiple non-conformances. So
Well,
it needs to be real specific.
then,
as
yeah,
to-
then those will have to be dealt with as they stand. But you know, we had one come in on Stockbridge Corner Road that was less non-conforming and we said, no, you can't, if you remember.
So I don't know if this proposed language is good enough. Is it going to cover everything? But it surely is a starting point. To bring this back to town council and see what he says. Because we started working on this last year. I know John did. He threw some language over at town council and he had asked him to tweak it a little bit more, and then it was getting down to the nitty gritty of time frame, and then we didn't really have enough time to really craft a good amendment for that. So I'd like to get on top of that this year if you guys are interested in having that on there.
I personally would, if they're making it, that's my personal opinion, is if they're making it less non-conforming, they're trying. And
Right.
I think that should be held in some.
Is there any chance where something like that could transpire and it could be a problem later on? If we eliminate that step, is there anything that could bite us in the butt later on? I'm just, I just
That's the
asking.
question, right?
You
That's
always ask
the
that question, always.
Yeah, is there anything later on that could pose a problem? I mean, I know it's less non-conforming, but
Yep.
if they skip that step, is there anything that those people with that lot could
Because
do
like
that
my
we
question
wouldn't
is how
know?
much less, like how non-conforming is it? And then how much less non-conforming is it? Like, so
That's why
Scott
I
went
think
from
the
2 less,
ZBA
but to
needs to-
up to 1.8 something. Well, that's close
Pretty
enough
close.
to the 2. So, okay, that's doable, but if it's like 0.84 and you're only getting it to 1.25 or whatever, so I feel like that's
Because I know people
very
up on
broad.
Alton Shores have taken some of those smaller lots. You know, two people, they buy one in the middle and they split it in half and
Mm.
Yeah.
you take half, I take half, and now we have a little bit more room.
See, there's nothing wrong with in a case like that, right?
But that's a lot line adjustment.
Oh, no, I get it. And they would have to go, I think in a case like that, they should still have to do it. What if they decide to put something on,
But
you know,
they-
closer to that middle line, if they
See,
put up a structure?
They'd be put on the abutting lot. So instead of, let's say, a 10,000 square foot lot, now it's a 15,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, I
See,
still
if
think
we-
they have to go before ZBA. I mean, that's just my position. I think anytime you're creating a new lot, even if it's less non-conforming, you're creating a new non-conforming lot. And I think that's what ZBA is there for. Let them weigh the pros and
And
cons.
as I
And I
sat
wish we
here
had
and I
the CDA
listened.
people here.
But as I sat and I listened to this go round, I started out thinking, well, yeah, that makes sense. And if we can do away with the extra step, because I mean, sometimes that extra step is like, it's more like, what,
Yeah.
it's more of a bother than anything most of the time, but like I said, that's a huge, that was one, for instance. What are these other for instances? What are those nonconformities? How nonconforming are they? There's a lot there, I think. So I think if
That's
you
why we
almost
have the
just have to,
ZBA
yes.
to weigh all
I
that
think it
stuff.
does have to come back then.
Yeah.
I would be my 2 cents.
That's my opinion, and we are not a quorum tonight, so I think this still has to be brought up again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to go over this whole list again.
Yeah.
I feel we have to, in fairness to the other two.
This is absolutely helping me prepare for that. Thank you. I read through it and I was understanding. First meeting, guys, go easy, go easy. I see you over there. Go easy.
We're all going to appear so smart at that next meeting.
Can't wait. I come in here like a scared puppy.
Okay, so 14.
Just
That's
on.
just general
ongoing,
conversation.
yeah, just basic ongoing review of definitions and table of uses and such, things like that.
I was asked by a couple of people how we had public last year, but I think we had that for only for the short-term
Short-term
rental.
rentals.
We did, yeah, for that alternative housing committee.
So-
Yeah, so,
Because we started doing the open space subdivisions and that thing, we talked about it in those meetings. So they say, well, do we get the chance to talk about that some more?
I think it's not a bad idea to bring the public in on that.
Because I know Paul Zuzgo would like to attend. And whomever else. But.
Yeah.
And
So,
Mr.
so we
Bober,
should put that as a question for the next meeting to see if, once we get a quorum.
and Mr. Bober made a thing last year at the end of this. He says, hey, this was good. Can I come back and help next year? I says, well.
let me,
Just having public input into the decisions we make.
He was just a public.
I mean, we do have public input
Yep.
section. Without them necessarily having to be on the committee.
Yeah, but it's good to volley it around while we're talking about it. That way we're a little bit more focused. Because I'm saying, oh, on item 2 that you said this. And I said, well, we should have talked about that when we were on item 2, not 14. Or have a public input after every one. That's another way around it.
Right, so I'm just trying to, right, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
Yep.
I'm just trying to navigate. We have a set of guidelines,
Mhm.
just trying to be able to either follow the guidelines or
And my idea is
and
get
amend the guidelines.
as
to
much
allow for
diverse
that.
input as we can.
And
I think
it's-
that, I
it's
think if you're
great.
talking zoning, then public input after each is probably
Yep.
best because.
Because we may
the goal is to
revisit the
end.
same item.
Yeah.
And plus, because zoning is so confusing for most,
Yeah,
I mean, I know like nothing. I'm scared puppy dog and I only know this
yeah,
a little much because I sat on the master plan committee, we discussed it and hashed it out, and I did come
Yep.
to a couple of the way before you actually were meeting about the short-term rentals, so like, but other than that, like, I know nothing, like zoning is, and I came tonight because I don't want to be one of those people when they come
Mhm.
out to the polls and, when it's put out there, oh, this is what you're voting on, everybody's like, why is there a lumberyard going in Nally Street?
That-
I'd like to.
that
know
in
what's
my
going
eyes
on. I want to talk
That's
about it. I
failure.
want to be like that keyboard warrior, so here I
Just what you said was the
Yeah.
biggest failure of SB2.
Yeah.
SB2, all that did is provide uneducated voters, in
Yep,
my
yep.
personal opinion.
Well, truthfully, I think society did that because whether we went to SB2 or not, I don't think people would really turn out. Honestly, I
Well,
don't.
I'm gonna tell you.
Now,
but-
right now, I think if you went
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
maybe, but I think as we move forward, society is becoming more and more of a me society and less of a us society, and they really don't care unless it's.
My
pertains to
civics
them
teacher
directly.
required us to go to the town meeting. And I think it's a good thing for people to do, Okay, Jess, anything else?
Nope, I think we're on number 15 and that's for you guys. Anything that ZAC members have to propose. Because we don't have enough.
I
clearly.
think
I
I went
think
to,
I
close
have
the
enough
meeting.
there.
I think we have enough, and I think that,
Yeah.
that inclusionary housing, I think that first one, that's gonna be the big nut for us to crack.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think
That's gonna be a
great.
number of meetings and probably some focus group too work, so. Yeah. So that covers quite the wide array.
right.
And I'm interested in that as well, because we did discuss that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Mr. Plan, because it's important.
Yeah, we gotta make it easier to get affordable places to live in this town.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, because it's ridiculous what things are costing right now.
It's ridiculous what things are costing, and our zoning is so restrictive that, you can't even pick up a piece of property to try and put 3 or 4 units in, because you can't, you just can't. So,
Well, I appreciate you guys going over this quickly tonight, even if it wasn't voted on, because again, like I say this all the time, broken record, but that roundtable open discussion, that's where you get your information, you get your knowledge. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
No, we do too. I mean, we want the input
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
public too. I mean.
Because someone else can say,
Right.
oh, yeah, and
I
make us
try
go.
my best to
"Hmm."
go.
Okay, anything else?
Anything else? Any other?
No. No.
Nothing?
Then I will adjourn us from our non-meeting.
All right,
Again, thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
you.
I'll see most of you tomorrow.
I do believe.
Yeah,
Same bat channel.
when I saw that, I was up, man, that was on the other